Welcome, Coleman Report Live, first edition of fiscal year 2020. Lance, we missed you last week.
Well, Bob, I want to tell you a very quick story. We had as a team building exercise for our government guaranteed lenders, axe throwing, which was quite a fun event. I enjoyed it a lot.
I'm not even going to. Good for you. Coleman people, we're not going to do that. We're not going to team build on that. You completely lost me on that. Hey, welcome, Bob Judge, CEO, founder, co-founder, Government Loan Solutions. Bob, I understand you're on the line, but we can't see you.
That's right. I'm hearing my voice, but you can't see me.
That's probably pretty good. Hey, let's go to the poll question. Moving on. I got thrown off track with the axe throwing thing. Hey, the numbers are in. What do you think? These are combined. We're combining both 7A and 504.
Well, 2018 was a very robust 7A year. How did 19 turn out?
Well, we have a slide for that. The answer is all SBA lending is down 6.5%. So 16% of you got that right. Very good. Let's go to, now that's by dollar. We're going to ask the same question by number of loans.
You know, Bob, I may take a guess and say that the number of loans may have increased because a lot of banks are emphasizing smaller SBA loans to get diversity in their portfolio.
You are wrong, Lance. It actually decreased 11% by number. So
it decreased or increased?
Decreased. Joseph, put up a slide. These are the numbers. And you can see 7A was down 13% by number, and by volume down by 8.5%. 504 is up. Bob, you're our secondary market guru. Why are we down?
Well, actually, it's unfortunate that we're down in more in loan volume than in gross loans, because that means that loans are getting larger, which is something that certainly people in the secondary market would rather have smaller loans, not bigger loans. And also, again, to Lance's point, it's you kind of want to get the money in the hands of smaller organizations, not necessarily always larger firms. So it's unfortunate. And I think it's probably been that's probably a shift of what's been in the past. I would think that we've in the last couple of years we probably were the reverse, where average loan balance was actually declining. But I don't have the information off the top of my head.
Actually, we have.
Yeah, I mean, the program has grown quite a bit the last couple of years, so I guess we're due for a down year at some point.
Bob, I still would like to emphasize to the participant lenders the importance of a diverse loan portfolio, and Bob certainly supported that. For every $2 million loan you have, you need a $50,000 or $75,000 loan. That's why I thought maybe the numbers were up. And of course, 504 approvals and dollars are up, Bob. A lot of that is a result of the incredible 25-year fixed interest rate on the debenture issue, which has been below 4%, down in the mid to upper 3% range for most of the year. And that makes it real attractive. And in my own personal SBA lending effort, Bob, I have more 504 projects going right now than I ever have.
Lance, we had this conversation just 2-3 years ago, and we were lamenting the fact that 504 was way down and 7A was going through the roof. So this does go in cycles. The attractive interest rate is obviously the reason why 504 is doing well, especially in a rising rate environment as we've had over the last 18 months. So, I think take a look at this, and when you put together your budget for next year, be a little bit heavier on those first liens on 504 and maybe scale back a little bit on 7A. Hey, Joseph, skip the third poll question. Go directly to number 4, what Bob Judge was talking about. What percentage of SBA 7A loans in fiscal year 19 were over $2 million?
This is a fun question, Bob, because if you pay attention to your PAIR score and your PAIR's risk factors, the number of loans over $2 million is one of those potential risk flags.
The correct answer is 37%. So it's pretty heavy. And I think I don't have an update on where we are on getting that express capped at $1 million. I believe that will happen. But you see creeping up the larger amount of loans, which I don't have a problem with, but I agree with you, Lance, is there's something good for diversity and to balance out your portfolio with some of those smaller loans. There are lenders who make a living just on those small loans, and there's lenders who make a living on the larger loans.
Well, and there are a lot of banks that benefit from a CRA, and I know you can't prove credit elsewhere by meeting CRA requirements, but your SBA loans under $1 million can help you in your CRA efforts.
Bob, Judge, what's going on with the secondary market these days?
Well, the market has remained strong the last couple of months, even in face of higher prepays. So I'm actually somewhat surprised that the market has remained so strong with prepays near 18%. But the bottom line is that, it's a good time to be for lenders to be selling their loans. There's a ready demand for paper, both for pools as well as the interest-only strips, and the market is in good shape.
Bob, I know there's someone who their eyebrows shot up when you say prepays. Define prepay. What is a prepay?
Well, the prepay speed is basically the percentage of the loan balance that will prepay over the next year. So, typically we've seen 10 to 12% as the number historically, and right now we're up to near 18%. So we're 50% higher than what has historically been the norm. So usually the higher the prepayment speed, the shorter the average life, which makes it difficult for an investor to earn back the premium they're paying. So with when prepays rise, you tend to see premiums fall, but in this case we haven't really seen them fall. So again, demand is pretty high even in the face of higher prepays, and a lot of that might be just the fact that rates in general throughout all fixed income assets are low. So they're everything is priced very high, and that also includes SBA loans and pools.
I can't believe you gave an economist definition that even I can understand. That was brilliant.
That was just some luck, I guess.
Well, either I'm getting smarter or you're learning how to communicate better. Very, very. Also, prepays, they are not defaults. These are refinances. So don't. We're not talking about an 18% default rate. Hey, Bob, tell us.
Well, I mean, it is the combined, but defaults are not the major problem.
Right. Yeah.
Defaults are low.
Tell us what the agenda is going to be for January 8th. Washington, D.C.
Basically, we're going to be looking at a lot of the stuff we always look at, an update on market conditions, where things are trading and why they're trading there, where does the demand for loans come from, as well as an update, like I just touched on prepayment speeds, and again, where is that coming from? Also, a big part of it is, the SBA has changed how they paid principal on pools. How is that going and how has that impacted the program? And that, of course, also leads into the change in the percentage, the pooling percentage from 95 to 94%, which came out just recently. And you sent, Bob, you sent me the PDF on it. And that actually is a good thing because that says that the SBA is happy with how the deficit in the Master Reserve Fund is being dealt with. So it's a good thing for the market. It's not a huge advantage, but it does show that it is heading in the right direction after having, only risen over the last decade. So again, it's a small benefit, but something at least heading in the right direction. Again, going back.
Yeah, it's great. We get great buy-in from SBA. SBA sends their officials.
Yep.
Last year, we had Senate Small Business Chair Jim Risch give the keynote. So we've been able to get a lot of good support That's why we go to Washington, D.C.
Yeah, John Wade will be there, and this is probably the longest time that you'll ever have a chance to hear him speak. He does talk at Nagel for a few minutes, but this is one where he is the only person up there on the day of speaking. So this is your best opportunity to hear him, and basically he's the chief of the secondary market. So what he says goes. Right. Also, we'll touch on the 504 program, talk about that, as well as we'll touch on some other programs, perhaps USDA, maybe things like that are relevant.
He and I there, and anyway, it's a fun event. I will tell one quick anecdote, Lance. I'd love to tell this story about Bob Judge. The first time we did this was in 2008, right when the secondary market crashed. Lehman had just filed bankruptcy. There was no secondary market. Bob Judge is giving the keynote speech, and we're up on the, fifth floor. We're at the Williams Club, and it's hot. We're all sweaty. It's September. He opened up the window to get some fresh air, and we all yell at him, "Don't jump! Don't jump!" Very good. Thanks, Bob. Thank you very much for joining us. Oh, by the way, in your dashboard, we have an order form. You can fill that out. We're going to honor that early bird rate through the end of October, so feel free to take advantage of that. Joseph, did you have a certificate? I didn't see a certificate in this.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Bob. The certificate's in the dashboard. Be sure and download it. Hey, Lance, we got a couple of great questions from Julie. Tell us what's going on.
Well, she's asking, they've submitted a loan GP and it's got some refinancing involved. In fact, I went back and looked at the original email. It looks like they're refinancing an existing loan on a small business equipment SBA loan. Also, there was a real estate component, and they submitted it GP. They came back and made the determination that the existing SBA loan was on reasonable terms in a screen out. There are a couple ways to approach this. One, you could leave it as is, Bob, and just ask for a upper level review. But part of the problem that I see is you have to look at the original intent of the SBA loan that's being refinanced. And the original intent was financing equipment. And that loan still has 10 years left on it in term. That would be considered on reasonable terms. So if I were in this position, what I would do is a real estate component that needs refinance, I'd go ahead and look at that as a separate SBA loan. Just do a real estate refi, 25-year term, and leave the existing SBA loan as is, unless there's some incredibly compelling reason to do that. Or you can leave the package as is, ask for upper level review. But quite honestly, now I don't have all the details, Julie. If you want to email me some additional details, maybe I can provide a little clearer path. But really, two options. One is to refinance the real estate piece separately, leave the existing SBA loan as is. The other would be to determine what that compelling reason is and ask for an upper level review. Now, the SOP and refinancing, and of course, this is another lender's SBA loan, but the SOP says you can refinance another lender's SBA loan as long as it's on unreasonable terms or additional monies are needed. In this case, it sounds like a straight refinance of real estate and equipment, so there's no new money in it. So I honestly, Bob, think you just take the real estate piece and refinance it separately.
Lance, what is your strategy for advising lenders on when to do that upper level appeal?
When it's very clear that the SOP says you can do it, then and they come back and screen it out, then I would ask for an upper level review. That doesn't happen very often, and somebody would like to know what the success rate. I've had about 3 appeals, 2 were denied and 1 was approved. So I don't know what the overall, I'm sorry.
Over what time period?
That's over a 20-year period of lending, Bob. So I haven't had that many appeals. The only time I would is when it's very clear that the SOP says you can do it. In this particular case, when you look at the original intent of the SBA loan, from what I can see in the email, it appears that the best path is just to refinance the real estate on an SBA loan, leave the existing one as is.
Let's go to Jilly's second question. What do we have here, Lance?
This is a little more complicated. We had a business acquisition where a son and daughter bought out a mom and dad's restaurant, and now the brother wants out, and the mom and dad are going to buy their way back in. Loan sold on secondary market. They requested the investor to modify, and the investor refused. There's some issues here, and I need a little more information to give the best answer. The question is, how long has the loan been on the books? Because the mom and dad received payment when son and daughter bought them out. Second thing is, this is a closely held transaction. On your business valuation, irregardless of the size of the loan, when it's a transaction between relatives or people who are close to one another, that business value, third-party business valuation would be required as part of it. Now, the SOP reads that, and this is an existing SBA loan they have, you can refinance your own SBA loan, Bob, if you're unable to modify the terms due to a decline from the secondary market investor, or if there's a significant increase in the amount of the existing SBA loan, and if it's not possible to increase the existing SBA loan. In this case, the investor has declined the modification. So it is possible. Of course, it would have to be submitted GP. And I have some concern because we had a transaction where mom and dad got some money, and now they're coming back in.
I would absolutely not touch this. Well, it has to be GP anyway, but I would definitely, on an eligibility analysis, have SBA sign off on it. I agree with you. Time frame is important. It just happened 3 months ago or 5 years ago. So I agree with you on that.
Now, in this case, when you look strictly at the SOP 5010-5K, it does say you can refinance this loan because the secondary market investor declined the modification. That's not the question I have. Is what you mentioned, Bob, whether or not it's eligible. And again, it's kind of a gray area. And people ask me, what's the difference between PLP and GP? PLP is when you're certain about eligibility. GP is when you're not sure, when it's a gray area.
Hey, let's go to the news of the day. Thank you very much for that, Lance. And the president signed the continuing resolution on Friday. We were unsure last week of what happened to that $99 million subsidy. It is included in the continuing resolution. I'm assuming it's prorated. The subsidy had to be in there so that we did not raise fees. We have attached the fee notice to the dashboard. So there we have it. And you can see, Lance, these are the same pieces last year, correct?
Yeah, basically no changes.
There's no change on that. The funding levels, when you have a continuing resolution, the funding levels were the same as last year. We know that 7A was down. 504 had a little bit of bump, but the administrator has the authority to increase that by 10% on either of those programs unilaterally. So we're going to be fine. I don't see any issues with SBA being held up after Thanksgiving. Do you, Lance?
One of the things in the continuing resolution that I noticed, Bob, the Veterans Advantage SBA Express fee relief is not included in the continuing resolution.
Yeah, thank you for that. And I don't know what's going to happen after the 21st of November, but yes, the veterans fee waiver, the veteran loans have to pay a fee through November 21st. Katie, welcome.
Hi.
Katie's been doing a great job for us. Katie, tell us, one of your specialties that you're developing is you're covering these optimism indexes. And I read this stuff that you do on Monday, and sometimes it's different than what I read in other outfits. But tell me overall what you're seeing on Main Street and how small business owners are reacting to the current economic environment.
Right. So this is all information from a study that was conducted by MetLife and the Chamber of Commerce. And basically what it's saying is that business optimism levels are at an all-time high. They're at record-breaking high, actually. And experts are saying the reason for that might be due to confidence in the local level, at the local level, and because the national level is remaining kind of flat right now.
No, I
You can see
love
these-
that analysis. I love that they were able to drill down and say, hey, we're a little concerned. We hear the R word, we hear recession, we don't know, we hear low GDPs lowering, and we hear all this stuff. But when we drill down to specific local economies, specific small business people, they're very optimistic. As you said, all-time highs.
Right. And you can just see these stats. It's looking great. 56% of small businesses indicated that their local economy is performing well. That's great news.
Yeah.
So,
Hey, Bob, my favorite stat in the report is it says small businesses specializing in professional services are more optimistic about their health than retailers are. Bob, I had a retail store for 9 years, and I would have felt the same way because I had to work about 65 hours a week in my retail store.
The retail apocalypse.
Yep.
And very quickly, I believe when we talked about this, that make sure that we talked about this 2 weeks ago, recommendation that Lance has is go ahead and run your borrower through the system analytic management system to make sure they're eligible. It's not in the SOP. It will be in the SOP when they review it. So I would start doing that now. And Katie wrote about that once. Katie, bring us up to date on the fraud trial in Jacksonville.
right. So as you might remember from last week, we covered a fraud trial. This is involving Katrina and Reginald Brown, not related. They're ex-Jacksonville City Council members who got involved in a business. Katrina's family owned and operated a barbecue business, and reached out to Reginald about incorporating actually two businesses that were supposed to support this barbecue business, when in fact what the indictment was saying is that they incorporated these businesses. They were completely fake, and that they were using those businesses as a conduit to bring in money from the SBA. So this week, the trial progressed, and Monday morning, the court announced a conviction for both Katrina and Reginald, and I will be writing more about what happened in that trial tomorrow.
Yeah, it's another example of phony invoices being used to support documentation. So, and that we're doing it. Very good. Hey, we're running out of time. Thank you very much for that, Katie. If for some bizarre reason you're going to this event, I'm going to be speaking Sunday morning. And that's my topic, Lance, where brokers and lenders learn from small business loan frauds. And yeah, so it's that. And these are our upcoming webinars. Hey, we because of some scheduling difficulties, we had to change dates. So those are them. I'm going to do our 4th annual medical practice professionals. Lance is going to be doing litigation plans and PDF kits. And then we're doing a repeat on the USDA event on November 19th. And with that, everyone have a nice weekend, and we'll talk to you later. Thanks, Kevin.
Have a great weekend.
I'm sorry. I probably lost a bunch of people. This just came in. These are some regional events that Jennifer Blooming is putting together. We'll have them today in our movers and shakers, but they announced that for next year. Anyway, thank you all very much.